Ooh, welcome to the Jalen Show. What's going on, people? So good to see you. Good to be back with my guy, Russ Eddins. Welcome to episode number 11 of Cardinals Talk. We're so excited for you to be here. If you're new, welcome to the Dalen Show. I'm Dalen Flowers. Hit that subscribe button, leave a like, comment something funny so we can laugh afterwards. My friend, what's going on, man? I know it's been about a little over a month now, but how are you doing? Well, first of all, we were in Omaha for the College World Series. Fun experience. So I know we were kind of out of the way for about a month. A lot of things been going on, but good to be back. Good to see you, man.
Yeah, it's been a busy summer. I know you've been on the recruiting trail a little bit. Sounds what it sounds like. A lot going on here in Oxford, and we're getting ready for media days here in a couple weeks. But the Cardinals kind of going 500 right now. Past couple of months, just took a big series from the Braves. Another big series coming up tonight. All-Star break is I think 11 games, 11 days, something like that. So right around the corner, but school will be here before you know it for me. I guess you're done, but I'll be back in the office here in a couple weeks, or I guess a month.
Yeah, it's crazy to think about. Dang, I am done. No more going back. No more first day.
No.
That's wild. Yeah, it's been a crazy month. I know went to Lincoln. Then you went to Auburn World Series. Fun month for you. Busy on recruiting trail for me, but good to be back, man. I'll be brutally honest with you guys watching or listening. Have not been watching much Cardinals baseball the last month. Been so occupied with other things. But this is going to be like a curiosity episode for us, honestly. We're also going to try our best to talk about things. But like Russ said, Cardinals currently sit at 45-39. Third place in the Central, 7.5 games back from the Brewers, who lead the division. I know you mentioned a stat earlier before we got on, I think talking about how we were like, what were we, 500 in the month of May or June or something below that?
Yeah, 500 in May and then one game over 500 in June.
Okay. So, I mean, look, we talked about this in April and then thinking around the starting points of May, how important was the month of June. And I mean, still 6 games above 500. I know I've seen things on social media. I've watched some highlights and kept up with notifications and stuff like that. Obviously, things aren't going exactly how you would, I think, continue to hope for the way they were. But at some point, you kind of remember, if you're a Cardinals fan, this was supposed to be a rebuilding year. This was supposed to be a year where you were going to see a lot of changes and kind of seeing a fluctuate of consistency from certain guys. I think you're just kind of reaching that point now, getting into the month of July. At this point, I'm not going to lose my mind about anything. And I've said this to you since the beginning, because when we first got back before the season started, our expectations were very low. I didn't think we were going to be a playoff team. At this point in July, we're still content to be a playoff team. Jordan Walker is still one of the best baseball players in baseball. I think there are still pieces around him that are still playing well. I think we can get into different things about pitching and et cetera, et cetera. But here's the thing for me. I mean, people losing their minds. I get it. Losing the game suck, and performances, you have the right to voice your opinions about the performances being below standard, et cetera, et cetera. But in the day, like, for me, losing my mind about anything that happens this year, really for the next, I would say 2 or 3 years, is just something I'm not really going to do.
Yeah, and we kind of get this in a little bit, but what happens after the season? Where do you go from here?
Yeah.
I feel like the lineup is so young. The only person you can really trade, I guess, would be Dustin May. Who else could you really trade? I mean, you wouldn't want to trade a bullpen. None of them are good enough to get a good return. But the thing is, there are so many competitive teams in the National League. Any of them could use Dustin May. And alternatively, in the American League, there are so many bad teams that it's so close right now, despite being 5 games or 500. Like the Red Sox are 5 or 7 games under 500, but they're still like 4.5 games out of a playoff spot.
Yeah.
So even they could really use Dustin May. By the way, they could really use a Dustin May, or just a right-hander. They have some lefties in Boston, but where do you go from here? If you are in the playoff spot in 2 weeks from now, what do you do with the deadline? And then kind of, what do you do at the end of the season? I think that's something we can kind of get into today, or, the next episode or something. But I think right now, the lineup is pretty good. It's full of young players. I think Weatherholt still was likely the rookie of the year, front runner. Mason Wynn is still, really good defensively. The bat has improved a little bit since May. Gorman, your guy, got sent down. Scott got sent down. Blaze Jordan's back up. Or he's up. Crooks is up. Nootbaar, he's off the injured list. By the way, do you know how old Lars Nootbaar is?
I do not.
Off the top of your head, how old do you think he is?
In his, I would say like 30. Is he 30?
He's 28.
Wow. Okay. So he's got some years left. I didn't know that. I thought he was in his 30s.
He is just 28 years old.
He's been
and
playing
I would say,
for like forever.
I know, but like, do you trade a Lars Nootbaar at the deadline? Who's batting has an 850 OPS right now and only 80 at bats, to be fair. But like, what do you do with Lars Nootbaar? I feel like he could give you a good return, but would that return yield long-term impact for your team? That's the big question. But right now, I mean, they're playing, decent in baseball. I think a lot of teams, if they went 500, for a month, for the dog day, not quite in the dog days yet, they'd be happy with that. I think the Cardinals fans, in the month of June were a game over 500, but the issue was they have, aside from the Braves series, they lost series to the Royals. Should I pull it up? Yeah, they lost 2 out of 3 to the Twins, took a series from the Padres, and then the fall kind of started, lost 2 out of 3 to the Royals, lost 2 out of 3 to the Diamondbacks, and that was a 4-game set before games got canceled or postponed. Lost 2 out of 3 to Miami. So he lost 3 straight series, and that's kind of where we're at right now. They lost those 3 straight series, took one from the Braves. That was really, really good. But you had a lot of blown leads in that 3 consecutive losing series streak. Had a lot of blown wins, blown saves, blown games. So I think the bullpen is always a concern. But yeah, right now they're playing decent baseball, and they're about to go through a really pivotal stretch with 8 straight games against the Brewers and Cubs.
Yeah, I think you bring up a good point because I honestly think that no one expected us to be at this point right now, and it's brought up the question now: do you try to make a moment of a move if you can, if it's even possible, to try to continue winning right now because things have been going relatively well and I would say above expectations? Or do you just kind of sit and simmer and see how things play out for the rest of the year? I mean, from that perspective, like, I don't know what moves could be made at all besides internally. And then if so, would it even be like, what's the end goal? Like, I feel like your goal is to win a championship, but wholeheartedly, I don't think anything can happen for this team to do that anyways. But even if that isn't the case and making the playoffs is the goal, what moves can be made at all that would allow this team to say, okay, yes, we're still 6 games above 500, but how do we turn things around from the bullpen aspect or from the inconsistency that we're seeing from some of our offensive talent that would allow us to be a playoff team? Or do you just scratch all that and say, our goal at the start of this last summer was, or not last summer, at the end of the last fall was build for the next 4 or 5 years, and then when that 4 or 5 year standpoint comes, then you say, okay, now this team is ready to compete. But at the same time, I say 2 things. Number one, what is the date for a rebuilding for this franchise? Like, how long do you go and say, okay, we've been at this point for 3 years now. Now it's time to take the next step. Because also, if you look back at the last couple years since 2022, since that loss to the Phillies, this team hasn't been consistent. Like, it hasn't been competing for anything. And so, do you eternally say those are rebuilding years, or those are just dead years in the water that you didn't really know what were going on, et cetera, et cetera? Now you're at this point, and it's like, what is the next step? If these guys are performing as fastly as they were this year, do you continue to make those moves happen to keep those young guys here? Do you kind of move other pieces around? Because like you talk about Lars Nootbaar, I'm like, I don't know what you do with him if he's 28 now that I know that. It's like, yes, you can make a move for him, but will the return that you end up getting be something that can affect you now for the future? And what if it doesn't affect you at all and it's something that doesn't work out for you at all? So like, that's a move that could be talked about. I think there are other moves that could be talked about that you could take a risk in making, but does it really affect you positively? And I don't know. That's why I'm not a general manager. Like, I'm going to leave all that to Bloom, and he's going to have to make those tough decisions. But I think it's a lot to be talked about internally. And I think as good as it's been of a year so far for the Cardinals, and yes, there's obviously been down moments, but this has still been a really good year. It now brings a bigger question into what do you do for the future? Because you said this before, and I'll kind of reiterate it really quick. I just don't. There are not many moves to be made from this team. It's as simple as that. From a contract standpoint, from a talent standpoint, from a potential what are you getting back for right now or for the future, there's just not many things that can happen. And so do you really want to do that to affect what you have going on right now? Because I personally think there's no new move to be made. Like I just wholeheartedly believe it. I think that there things can be changed internally from a coaching standpoint, from a roster standpoint, and just hope other potential players get better from going down or guys coming up and make better moves. But like other than that, you just have to play your brand of baseball. Let the guys you have continue doing what they're doing. And from the bullpen standpoint, I obviously they've been bad, but like I also don't want to lose my mind about them either. We knew this before the season started, my friend. They weren't going to be that good. Like they've showed sparks of good moments, but from a consistent standpoint, we knew they weren't going to be that good. So it's not like yes, I was watching the games before the last month that I would get upset when things didn't go our way from the bullpen perspective. It happened the very first game against Tampa Bay when we made a change and the bullpen kind of collapsed. But like, it's not something that I'm losing my mind because it was something that I expected from the very beginning from this team.
Yeah, I mentioned Dustin May going to the Red Sox. Probably not going to happen, but it's a good example of any team could use him.
Yeah,
Dustin May actually played the Red Sox last year. I thought he might have. So Red Sox front office making interesting decisions there because they have no right-handed pitching. They have none. They have Sonny Gray, one of five. The rest are like injured, and Garrett Crochet is not 1 to 5 right now, by the way. Anyway, so yeah, I think all of this you have to kind of preface it with: do we play baseball next March?
Yeah.
Is there baseball next year? How many months are we delayed? Because
true.
I think that is going to have a big effect. What that effect is, I don't know. I don't know enough about it yet. I feel like that's where not watching the team like we haven't been able to do because on the road for a month because our hometown team was or my hometown team anyway was playing really good baseball. So I was busy with them. But I think you kind of have to preface all this with saying, what do you do about that? I think the window to extend or to sign Weatherholt to a long-term contract is kind of over.
Yeah, I think it's
kind of like posting an article, about a football game 3 weeks late. It's too late. No one cares anymore. You had that window where like everybody was getting signed. Minor league players were getting signed to mega deals for like 10 years or mega. It's like $80 million or whatever. But it's for long-term contracts. That window's gone now. No one's doing that anymore because it's already happened. And I feel like the Cardinals really missed their chance to do that. And I'm really curious to know why they didn't do that with Weatherholt. What do you do with Walker? He's in what year? How long's he been in the league? He made his day. He's got like 2 years service time. Yeah. So he's a free agent in 2030, by the way. So he's got some time. But I think at the end of next season, he is arbitration eligible. So he's through his first 3 years after this, and then I think he hits ARB pretty soon. So what do you do with him? What do you do with all these young players? Are you gonna have like a Brewer situation where you have this like really great prospect that you developed, and then all of a sudden you have to let him go? I don't think the Cardinals really want to do that, considering their entire lineup is made up of those homegrown talents for the most part. I think. Burleson was drafted by the Cardinals. Mason Wynn, Weatherholt. I think Church was. Herrera, I think he came from international pool. If I had to get, I don't think he was drafted. Yeah, something like that. So, I'm really curious, what do you do with these players? There is a much better product on the field this year, but I still don't know the direction the team is going. Because this team, as it stands, probably can't win a World Series. So what do you need to add to do that? I don't think you can just add a couple bullpen arms and say it's a World Series team. You still need, there's still some holes in the lineup, that you got to fill. But how do you fill those? Is it with free agency? Well, who knows what that's going to look like next season? It may not be a thing anymore. It may be completely different. It may be something totally different. Is there going to be a salary cap? Is there going to be a floor? If there's a floor, by the way, we're in big trouble because I think we need like another $70 million in expenses or something, in play revenue or player salaries to reach that number. So I'm really curious what the direction of the franchise is right now, not just the year to year, product. But the product's been better, but where are we going with this?
Yeah, I think that you bring up a great point. Honestly, I've forgotten about the lockout or potential lockout that is supposed to be happening next year. And that's a big topic that you make a great point about because it could be 2 years before some of these guys end up playing again. And that 2-year bounce for a lot of guys is really huge. You mentioned Lars Nootbaar, 28 to 30 is going to be a huge bounce. And some of these other guys, that extended break for them can be very detrimental to their careers and their playing and the consistency that they need to continue improving. But it also from a financial standpoint of contracts and, kind of delegating who are we bringing back, who are we letting go, trades and off-season signings, things like that. That's a very big talking point because I think you also now been into conversations about Ollie Marmol and some of the staff when you're considering things of that nature and, who do you bring back and moves that need to be made in that standpoint. So I think that's a really big point, and it's something I've forgotten about. And it's also something that I don't know if people are talking about enough in terms of this situation for the baseball in general, but also for the Cardinals. You bring up that point because it seems like some people are content with where the team is, and also. Again, I think it brings back to the point I was making earlier. How do you kind of evaluate, like you said, where we're going if it's something that is a 3-year plan, right? And then next year you're off. Is that still the same plan? Does that change up things for the future? I don't know how you really evaluate stuff like that in that time being because I think with this team, there are so many moving pieces and it may not necessarily seem like that, but literally everyone has opportunity to be moved around in certain situations. And I think, especially with the outfield right now, there is so much uncertainty that every single day is a battle for competition for those guys out there. Obviously not Jordan Walker, but you see Victor Scott being moved around. You see other guys in the outfield. Lars Nootbaar is coming back from injury now. He's kind of been fluctuating into the starting lineup. I think the third baseman situation is very competitive as well. I don't know if competitive is the word, but it's kind of a question mark at times, So, and the same thing with the bullpen. Like, how does this affect Liam Dole? How does this move some of the draft picks you're going to have this year into the situation of where you want to be in the next 2 years? So and money too, from that standpoint, this is a baseball team that has a rich history. But just like I know, man, we have not been big spenders in the offseason for much of my lifetime, as long as I can remember. So how does that affect things like that if you want to bring in a few guys, et cetera, when you're ready to say, okay, this team is ready to compete again? So I don't know, man. Like I think that's something that we could talk about all day. I think that's something we definitely need to continue to talk about to move forward throughout this season. But from my standpoint, I don't know, man. Like I think this team is doing well enough where they are right now. And I know that may sound crazy to some, but from my perspective of it being July, and yes, I know I have not been watching much the last couple of weeks, but they figured things out properly. Like, yes, there have been moments where it's like, okay, head scratching. What is Ollie doing? What is our bullpen doing? But like, that's baseball at the end of the day. You have a young team out there. You have a manager, and correct me if I'm wrong, but this is his first time being a manager of any team. So let's say this was his first real job at the professional level. So he's going to, believe it or not, I know it's been 4 years now, but he's still making mistakes and he's still learning about things that he's still processing at the time. Especially with this team, you got to remember this team is so young that you have a guy like JJ Weather who's a rookie. You have Jordan Walker, who's been around for a few years, but he's still developing in a lot of things. This has kind of been like his first, I would say, year where he's developing into the next level, what he can be. The catcher situation is so fascinating. The starting rotation has a lot of new pieces this year that you have some older guys and you have younger guys, but this is also a lot for Ollie Marmol too. And now it's new management that he's still learning and building relationships with those two. So I think when you look at it, like I'm really just wanting this team to continue to be where they are, keep their feet wet and stay where they are and allow these guys to figure it out. I think this year has taught us, if anything, that Ollie knows how to win games.
Yeah.
It may not has been, it may not have, it's not always been pretty this year, and it definitely hasn't been in the past. But this year has taught me that he knows how to win games. Like he's bought into the fan base. The fans are buying into him. I think he's becoming more of a fan favorite from Cardinals fans for a lot of different reasons. And the players are behind him. And he's become a guy that is a locker room guy that players are really being able to relate to, and vice versa to the fans. And I think it's going to be able to win in the long run. So for me personally, even with the lockout, supposedly coming on next year, I really just want this team to stay set where they are, figure it out. I think there's a good relationship with the players to players and the players to staff and management right now. And I really just think it'll be something that is successful in the near future for this team. But right now, I don't see anything worth moving around in that standpoint.
Yeah, I think they should really just stand. I imagine they're going to stand pat, especially, with, like I said, the only really tradable person on the team having a mutual option for next year and him not really outplaying that contract. He's played about $12.5 million is decently cheap for a starting pitcher, decently. But it's he's played about to that number. I would imagine he's had a couple really good games, a couple really bad games. He got 2 outs last night. Only got 2 outs and 5 runs, in the first inning. So I think they're going to stand pat ultimately. At deadline, I think that would be the smart thing to do because, Kyle Leahy isn't really a starter. He's probably been, Liberatore. It's again just not quite where you'd want him to be with the ERA wise, but he's had 80 innings. I think Kyle Leahy's the kind of guy you can bump to the bullpen and then you bring up one of your several other pitching prospects. Maybe Liam Doyle in a couple of years. There's several others, guy from Stanford. A couple other guys who can probably fill that spot in. You move Leahy to the bullpen, and that really reinforces the bullpen. Maybe that moves Stanek or Swanson out, who have not been good. That adds a little bit of depth. Because aside from Swanson and Stanek, the bullpen really isn't that bad, honestly. O'Brien's got a 3.8, Graceffo's got a 3.3, and Rule's 3.6. Romero, one of your setup guy, he's got a 3.7, and then Soriano 3.3. So really not awful. They've been good. It's just those two, Swanson and Stanek, who have combined for nearly 70 innings, have been really, really bad, honestly. And so I'm curious, if maybe, bringing Leahy in and not having him pitch for so many innings, as much as he has, although he hasn't been bad by any means, really. The ERA isn't quite what you want it to be, but ultimately he's probably more of a reliever, type guy, and I think putting him back in his more traditional role would help. If you can get May for a second year, and after that, he's a free agent, but he's got a mutual option, I think that would be really good for both sides. But, yeah, I think they're going to stand pat. I think they should stand pat. I don't really see them doing much else. But as far as the future goes, I think they may just try to really benefit from this new CBA. That's what I see the Cardinals doing. I see the Cardinals setting up the next winning era through this CBA and finding ways to be competitive with it. Kind of like the Brewers have found a way to be successful in their own small market. I kind of think the Cardinals are this team that will, find a way to succeed with the new rules in place, with the new strategies, with the new tactics of, managing money and whatnot. Now, what that looks like, I don't know, but I think that's the kind of person Bloom is, to kind of try to not cheat the system, by any means, but try to win in the margins, like the Brewers have done. The Brewers have found really good ways to develop pitching, and they've won in these small areas that no one else really looks in. And I think the Cardinals can kind of do that, maybe with this next set of regulations, if you will. But what that looks like is so up in the air to fans right now. I'm still curious about the direction that they would go in.
Yeah, okay. I want to ask you really quick, based on what you just said, because the future is obviously important. But this MLB draft this year, Cardinals picked 13 overall. How important is that pick for the Cardinals to get it right? But also, where do you go with that 13th pick?
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they went, with our starter like Taylor Rabe.
Yeah.
That would be good for us. Good marketing for Ole Miss. But I think what do you need? I mean, you've got more catchers than anybody, just about. I wonder how deep the first. I mean, you got Alec Burleson, whether he'll, the middle infield is locked up, and I feel like with Blaze Jordan, third base is good. Outfield's still pretty solid. They love getting outfielders. I mean, they got a few outfielders for years in a row. They loved. I mean, obviously there's 3 positions, so you got to fill that up. But I feel like they just need somebody who can hit. They're probably going to go for a power hitter, and that's what I would want as a fan, because I feel like the roster itself is pretty good, but maybe somebody who's just a really good all around hitter. We don't really have. I think Burleson's the closest thing we have to that. Weatherholt obviously is still really really good. The pop isn't. How good is he? He's got 12 homers. Those weren't on here. So I mean, the pop's still there, but I would think more of a Paul Goldschmidt type bat. Somebody like that, a good contact with pop potential. And I think you don't care about the position. If they can hit the ball, it's really all that matters. But I would want them to go get a bat, honestly. And I say that as if it's going to affect the team next year. But I just feel like they should go after a really good college bat.
Yeah, we'll see what they do. It's obviously important for us to be able to draft properly, especially right now when there's, I feel like, not much to do from the outside perspective of that. So I would love to. I'm loving to see what they're going to do with that. Just got to do right. Like, I think that's where, honestly speaking, behind the scenes is where more pressure comes from this team right now than anything, in my opinion. Like, I think you have to make the behind the scenes move, the transactions, the trades, the signings, the drafts, make those moves happen more right now than potentially what you have to do, playing wise. So I think that's very important. What do the Cardinals got coming up, man? Just finished the Braves series. Cubbies are in town. Knew that this weekend.
We're in Chicago, I believe.
Yeah, and then Milwaukee, then Atlanta again, and then Arizona. Hopefully, we'll get back to you guys before that Braves series again. But this is when the onions get tough, man. This is I think that you've obviously learned a lot about this team in the last month, and I'm now going to be able to start watching a little bit more over the next week or two. But this is the point where you're at. If you're, what are we, 4.5 games, 7.5 games back from the Brewers and 2.5 back from Chicago on the standings. Those are the 2 teams you play next. Those are the 2 teams ahead of you. If you want to be competitive this year, it's do or die right now. And I think those are important series, not only just for confidence, but 2 series that are against I think the teams that I hate the most personally, other than the Reds. So I think that you don't ever want to lose those teams as a Cardinals fan. But I think right now, especially, you're getting a little bit, I would say, a momentum back after getting a very, very important, strong series win against the Braves. So you kind of want to, you want to build on that against Chicago, especially on the road. We've had some great wins in regularly over the last couple of years. Continue that. It's going to be big. Shout out. Was it announced, the MLB, the All-Star team yet? Was it announced, or was the voting?
The voting's still going, yeah.
Okay. Make sure you go vote for Jordan Walker. He should be a starter, deserves to be a starter. I don't know if he was in the ranks or not. And I believe I was seeing that he wasn't at the time. You go vote. Make sure you vote. He deserves to be a starter. Been one of the best players in baseball this year, and really deserves to be out there playing as All-Star, representing the Cardinals this year. So yeah, I think he has earned his flowers, and I'm very, very proud of what he's been able to do this year. He stayed healthy. He stayed the course. His hitting mechanics have improved so much, and which is funny. We'll get in. I guess I'll talk about him real quick, and then we can kind of get out of here. I was concerned in spring training about him. I think we've talked about this before really quickly, but like I was concerned. So the fact that he has turned it around the way he has to start this season and still being one of the best hitters in baseball, and he's defensively, he's been really strong in right field as well. His arm is obviously a one of kind of talent, but his positioning, his footwork, his mechanics has also been very strong this year. So my props given to Jordan Walker and his team for working with him. I'm seeing the improvements, and I hope Cardinals fans continue to relish what he's been doing this year. Dude. Let's see. Yeah, that's it, man. Cubs, Brewers, Braves again. Big weekend for the Cardinals. I believe that game is on national TV tonight, Fox Sports, I believe. So
it'll be huge. We can actually watch it finally.
That will be kicking off at, I said tonight, 3:05 today. Is that game is that on TV tonight or is it tomorrow?
I've seen some ads for it. There is a game soon.
I believe it's tomorrow. I'm looking at the Google. I believe the game tomorrow at 7:00 is on Fox Sports. Tonight is at 3, and that will not be on national TV. So excuse me for being correct, but I think that'll be on national TV tomorrow. But regardless, none of the fact, big weekend against our arch heated rivals in Chicago. Should be a fun one. Good to see you, my friend. Any last thoughts before we head out?
I'm really excited about this series. I'll be able to sit down and watch it. Should be really good. I'm really excited to see what PCA does. I feel like whenever the spotlight's on him, he always does something either really, really cool or really, really stupid. And PCA is one of the most interesting players in the sport because you either hate him or you really, really love him, or
Max.
Like you really, really, really hate him. And he said some I do like that in the last Cardinals series, I think he said something about the fan base. He was talking more positively about St. Louis. I kind of respected that. It's been a while. He was saying, fan base was good. It was nice to have it filled up, to have the rivalry kind of back, which is nice. I respect him for saying that. I like that a lot. But of course, he's a Cub. He embodies the Cubs a lot. He's got weird hair, whatever. But I think PCA could have another really bad error or a really big home run, and that will determine, what we think about him for the next 2 weeks, pretty much, because that's how it works with PCA. He goes on these big 2-week runs or something, or 2-week big error sprints. That's what it feels like. I don't know. I mean, you can fact check it, but that's what it really feels like with PCA.
Yeah. Man, should be a fun one. I'm not a PCA guy at all, but we'll see it. Bron going back to Cleveland. I'm calling it right now. Shout out LeBron. Headed back home. I don't know that for a fact, but I hope he does. But appreciate you guys tuning in. Welcome episode 11 of Cardinals. I hope you enjoy. Like I said at the beginning, if you're new, hit that subscribe button. It's free. Keeps us going with this. It's allowing us to grow better. Leave a like and comment something funny or whatever you liked about us talking about or something you want to hear us talk about in the next episode or just your overall thoughts about the Cardinals. We want to hear you in the comment section. So appreciate you guys tuning in, man. See you guys next time.